What are some wins? I commented or I posted an FLT business just a little bit ago. I want to hear, and everybody else wants to hear, some of your wins. Why? That seems so insignificant, but when I say when you win, we all win, it is actually the truth. Because if I'm sitting here and maybe I had a really positive week, maybe I had a really, I enrolled a couple of people, and Dom, you guys all know, is a machine. He's sitting there just pounding his protein, I'm sure, right now. So I'm going to use him for this example because I know he can take it. But let's just say this past week wasn't the most winning week for him, okay? He didn't have any enrollments. Maybe he heard like 20 some odd no's. Maybe he just was feeling down and out. When I share my wins, when I say, hey, you know what, this is working for me. This is, what I was able to do. I enrolled 3 premium packs. We created a consultant. That's inevitably going to reinvigorate Dom and say, you know what? I can get back at this. I can do this. I know there's more opportunity out there for me. So don't think that you're, being, pompous or anything like that by sharing what's working for you or sharing your wins. You guys, when you win, we all win. And it creates this internal excitement, this internal energy, even if it's not necessarily when it comes to the business. Maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I had 2 shakes a day, greens and ionics every day for the past week, and I just feel phenomenal. I mean, that's all part of the art of well-being, the overarching theme that we want to be conveying, not just in this internal realm, but out there as well. And so when you're in conversation with people, here's something that I love to ask, because we're about to jump back into part 2 of our connecting, following up, and closing series that we started last week with the breakout session. But one of the great questions that, I love to ask people if I'm connecting with them, whether it's at Whole Foods, whether it's at the gym, is saying, hey, what's one of your wins from last week? Now, this is a stranger, or this is somebody that I'm newly connecting with. Why? Because people love to talk about themselves, right? People love to hear themselves talk. And so if you're like, hey, Kelsey, tell me something that just was awesome that happened last week. Tell me one of your wins last week. And you get her talking, and then you find out, she's, really into fitness, and she really wants to get, her maybe personal training certification. You delve more into that, and you say, whoa, Kelsey, that's awesome. How long have you, wanted to become a personal trainer? That's a little bit, I know we're sidestepping and getting into connecting, but hearing each other's wins is so important. So I'm going to look through some of these because I was chatting away. Jesse hit double PIBs. That's what I'm talking about. Had my first ISA payday. Jordan had her first ISA payday. You guys, I love that. John enrolled a cousin from Montana in the house. Congrats, John. That is awesome. So Alicia said super easy enrollment. Friends who said, well, we drink protein anyway, we may as well support you. That's awesome. So Alicia, there you go. You had somebody that's like, you know what, I drink protein, and instead of disqualifying them, you went ahead and followed up and connected with them, and now they enrolled and they're joining you. I love that. We also have a new person on, Sarah. You see her down there. Sarah, this is her very first call. I'm not sure if she's able to turn her video on because she might be driving or something like that. But welcome, Sarah, to the call. This is her first Freedom Living team call. So really excited for everything that's going on. Were we able to pull it up?
No.
Okay.
So why don't we just talk about connecting and closing?
Okay, let's do it. So a little improvising here because the URL, for whatever reason, is struggling a little bit with the Celebration Live 2020. So we're going to kind of...
We want to do maybe a Q&A with them tonight?
Let's do a Q&A.
Do you guys, I'm just asking, like, we were going to pull it up, it's not working, so should we do a little Q&A? Yeah. Do you guys have some questions regarding connecting, closing, anything regarding enrollments? Like, this is a perfect time. We've got 25 minutes to answer any questions that you have at all regarding Isagenix in the business. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Let's see if there are questions. Does anybody have a question or something? All right, Alicia, love it. If you have a question, just hold it, and we're going to go to Alicia, and then we'll move on to the next. Alicia, how are you?
Hey guys, good. So if I can just follow up on what we were kind of talking about the other day, James, about making sure that someone is actually interested in taking a look at the business as opposed to you just being hopeful that they are. Can we kind of dive into that?
Yes, great question. So Alicia and I were talking earlier this week about some people she has been talking to. And a question I asked her was, okay, Alicia, are these people genuinely interested, or was it just something that, came up in conversation and they're like, oh, that's nice. That sounds like a really fun business. Who has ever wondered if somebody is genuinely interested or if they're just being, socially polite, right? I get that all the time. And for the beginning stages, and I'll let you, navigate this as well and share your experience with how you've gone about this. But for me, when I've gone about answering and really finding out if somebody is genuinely interested in Isagenix, is one, they're going to ask about it again. Okay, so if somebody, if you're having the classic conversation, oh, what do you do? Oh, I work here at Whole Foods for whatever reason, it just keep coming up in my brain. I'm a bank teller. I'm a real estate agent. What about you? What do you do? Oh, I'm in health and wellness. I help people, create secondary income streams from their home or wherever they're at. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Good for you. If that's as far as the conversation goes, that person is not interested just because they asked me, what is it that you do, right? Because we all have that reciprocation in the social settings of, hey, you asked me what I do, so I'm going to ask you what you do. That's what we, if you're a polite person, that's what we all do. And so to get past that level, I will either swing back around to, a different part of Isagenix, whether that be the nutrition and, the fitness aspect of it, or I will, take people to, and I'll talk about more the income side if the conversation comes up later on. So Alicia, for your example specifically, actually, how about you do this? Why don't you walk us through your situation that you're in right now, and I can kind of share with you and everybody on the call, or you can too, how I might go figure out if that person's genuinely interested. There you go.
Okay, sorry, I was still muted. So one of them is a gym owner, and I took a class at her gym, met her, kind of established what I do, and then I followed up with her on Instagram because she is also involved in a network marketing company. And so I was asking about hers and explained mine. And it felt open to me because she was like, yeah, I'm familiar with the industry. I've been in a handful of companies. We've looked at doing a nutrition company like Isagenix in the past, but have just been overwhelmed on top of our gym business. And so that's where I left it, because from that point, it's like, so are you telling me like, yeah, or are you telling me like, yeah, that just wasn't the right time, but now is.
Okay, so she said she was open to it in the past, but it was just too overwhelming now. Is that right?
Overwhelming in the past, so maybe overwhelming now.
Okay,
yeah.
So here's what I would do. I would stop right there, and I would go into that person's pain with them. So I would say, okay, what's her name?
Amanda.
So I'd say, okay, Amanda, wow, that's incredible. So tell me a little bit, what made it so overwhelming, or what made it feel so overwhelming to you in the past? What was going on in your world? One, you're taking your agenda out of it, okay? When you're connecting, if connecting is nerve-wracking for you, let me just tell you, you're making connecting about you, and you're not making connecting about them. Connecting should not be nerve-wracking, because connecting is not about you. It's about them. So if she goes, oh, it was so overwhelming for me to think about, I really looked into health and wellness before, but it was just too overwhelming in the past. I'd say, okay, Amanda, tell me a little bit, like what was it, so overwhelming about that season of life? Well, there just was so much to the company. There was no, there was no systems. I felt like I had to just figure it out on my own. What you're going to find when you ask that is you're going to figure out what it was that didn't really suit her when it came to that different company, that different, time in her life. And at the same time, you're going to be able to figure out how Isagenix in this present moment can be a solution for her, because we have systems, because we have coaching, because we have a compensation plan that pays on unlimited levels and generations. So, the productivity that's happening in your organization is not just predicated on what James McLeod brings into the business. Mm-hmm. So if I was talking to her, Alicia, I'd ask that, and then I'd say, listen, if the opportunity ever presented itself where it had the qualities that you were looking for, would you ever be open to looking into it again? That's the phrase. Would you be open? If you're wanting to have more people take a look at Isagenix, would you be open? Would you be open? Would you be open? I was having a conversation with Sarah because she's just, now starting to the connecting experience and talking with people. And listen, I've told this, Autumn and I tell people all the time, we don't ever convince people to do this. We'll never convince somebody, we'll never talk somebody into Isagenix if they're not open to it. I'm not their guy right now. She's not their girl. And so if you're having a conversation and you can tell that somebody is into health, I'd say, hey, listen, Eric, you seem to be really into health. You seem really into taking care of your own body and your mental and physical being. Would you be open to taking a look at something I found that's, quite honestly transformed my health and I believe could really do the same for you? Would you be open? It's not a pressure sensitive question being like, I want you to look at this today. It's just, would you be open? And it's like, nah, man, I'm all set right now. Thank you so much. I don't say no forever. And Penny, thankfully, you can just say, remind me in 30 days. Because people's life cycles, people's situations in life are changing every 30 days. So that's what I would do, Alicia, with that specific situation. I would see if she's still open to it. And if she is, then I'd say, listen, I'd love to sit down and have a conversation about what this could really look like and how this could benefit you and your gym. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I do. And then I want to go to Rebecca Collins, who also has a question. When it comes to the connecting process, I agree with everything that James said. We're also in the reconnecting business as well, the following up business, the reconnecting business. And I really wanted to touch on how people's circumstances change every 30 days. James just touched on that. He said every 30 days, circumstances change. There are key phrases that we use to really directly ask somebody if they're open to taking a look. James just said, would you be open to taking a look? Would you be open to taking a look? Would you be open to taking a look? What I found when it comes to connecting is our energy can get really tired when we don't ask direct questions. People like certainty, and they like to follow people who are certain in what it is that they are pursuing and what it is that they are talking about. So when you ask the question, would you be open? You are already positioning yourself from an energetic standpoint that you're a certain, confident person, and it's taking out a lot of additional time of just filling in conversations to just talk. So when it comes to the follow-up and the reconnecting process after 30 days, what I like to say is hey, Jordan, we reconnect, or we talked about 30 days ago, the timing wasn't right in your life. You had X, Y, and Z going on. But what I found is I've actually found that a lot of people's circumstances change in 30 days. And I wanted to know, based off of what we chatted about and how you were looking for more energy, I'm reminding Jordan of what she told me 30 days ago. Hey, if you're open to, talking about paying for that additional phone bill, because that's been a stress of yours, is now a better time for you to take a look at Isagenix. So write that down if you're taking notes. What you're doing is when you're in the reconnecting process with them, when you're in the reconnect, you're reminding them of the pain point that they shared with you 30 days ago because you asked intentional questions. You asked if they would be open to taking a look and the timing wasn't right. So now we reconnect with them 30 days later, especially through the Penny app. You can't forget who you've reconnected with. And you're reminding them of those pain points. Hey, I know you said you're a really busy mom of 3. Convenience is really important to you. I wanted to let you know that we just launched some amazing new whole blend shakes. Would now be a better time for you to take a look at Isagenix. You're not filling in a bunch of words in this conversation. You're being direct and you're being certain by asking them if they would want to take a look. So that's what I wanted to add.
Love it. Rebecca, why don't you unmute your line and ask away?
Hi. So you were mentioning how people exchange, like what do you do for a living? And I just was wondering, if I could hear like what some of your answers are to that. I know based maybe on the situation and where you're at, that might change, but when someone asks you that, how do you respond?
Great question. Like you just said, there's a couple different ways that I'll answer generally, depending on the setting, depending on, if I'm, whatever, depending on the setting. So just take that for a grain of salt. One of the things that I'll say is, I'm in the health and wellness space. I help people create residual income from wherever they are. I sometimes, if I'm with the younger crowd, I'll say I'm in the virtual franchising business, because what we're doing here at Isagenix is we are, if you think about it, because we're about systems, because we're about duplication, we are franchising, and the idea is to be building virtual franchises where everybody's doing the same activities from their phone wherever they are. So I say, and that just inevitably brings about more questions because people don't typically know what that is. So they say, oh, wait, what is that? I go, oh, I help people create residual income from their phone, computer, from wherever they are. Are you familiar with residual income? And most times they say not. I originally said, I'm a health and wellness coach. Okay. Now, here's what I did by saying that. If I put out there that I'm a health and wellness coach, I'm a cleanse coach. One, I targeted myself as somebody who is a nutrition expert. Okay. So I'm raising my hand saying, I know a lot about nutrition. What I'm also saying is, I'm going to coach you and help, walk you and handhold you throughout, your nutritional journey. And I'm just going to be your coach. Everybody on this line right now wants to build a business, correct? Raise a hand. You love that. As I think it was Rebecca was saying, you got your first payday, right? Mm-hmm. We want to build a business. So I am in health and wellness. Yes. I do help people through intermittent fasting days. Yes. I help people, consume, whole nutrients. But I help people build a massive business as well that can help offset the cost of living on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And I do that through superfood nutrition that you can't get from anywhere else. Does that help? What do you say?
And Rebecca, one of the things that I want to say too, when James is talking, I listen to James. We're married. We work from home together, obviously. So I hear his calls all the time. And I hear him getting off calls and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so articulate with your words. He gets off phone calls and I'm like, wow, he's so poised and so amazing. What I want to say to that is, I remember James when he first started. I remember James, how he was in the first month to 2 months. I remember James, how he was in the first year of building his business. I remember James in the first 2 years of building his business. So the way that he just shared that certainty and the way that he just shared with such confidence, Rebecca, and he just shared, that has come through 6.5 years of constantly sharing, evolving, failing forward, and figuring it out. I want to see a show of hands. How many of you really see the vision of what Isagenix can be for your life? I want to see your hand. If you really see what this can be for your life, are you willing to sound silly for a little bit of time so that you can be confident and certain the way that you hear James being confident and certain 6.5 years later? Are you willing? Because the thing is about when it comes to, hey, what is it that you do for a living? And I'll share what I would say to that as well, is that we had to figure out what flowed out of our mouth. And the only way we could figure it out was by saying things and feeling it out and seeing how people responded. There is no shortcut when it comes to the connecting process. It's just doing it, getting on the bike, and just riding the bike until you learn. So when somebody asks me, hey, what do you do for a living? I simply say, I help people lose body fat without dieting, and I help them create an amazing income from home in the pockets of their life. That's what I say to people. Sometimes I say, I help people put in part-time hours and earn a full-time income from home. When I say I help people put in part-time hours and earn a full-time income from home, most people say, what do you do? What is that? How does that work? Well, I partner with an amazing health and wellness company called Isagenix. Have you ever heard of it? And I'm asking a question. it allows for them to respond and to say, no, I haven't. What is that? And it continues the conversation moving forward. So that's how I respond. And I just wanted to share with everybody on the line that your connecting will get better the more that you just do it.
Right. And to the what do you do? And that question gets asked a lot at events and on calls. You know, we were talking about how when we first heard Herb and Patty answer this question, they said, oh, we make millionaires. Herb and Patty Cevedos, the top incomers in the company. Oh yeah, we help, you know.
We create millionaires.
We create millionaires. Now that sounds great. Okay, but if I said that, one, it's not congruent because we haven't helped create a millionaire yet, but it's just not me. It's not me. So if take what maybe some of what I've said and what Odd has said and focus it to where you are at in your life. I know that, you know, I talk with my mom and she's like, you know what, I help. The way she answers that question is very different from the way I answer that question, you know, because she's an empty nester now. She's dealing with people and connecting with people, maybe who are in that season of life as well. So she's going to have her, what do you do, be more appealing to them and more catered to them. These are the kind of things that you have in what we call your tool belt, where if I'm standing across the room from somebody that's maybe 50, 55, my answer is going to be different than somebody who's 23. And that's just like Odd was saying, comes with practice and being willing to say something that maybe you've never said before. It's a little uncomfortable, but standing behind it with all like conviction and enthusiasm,
Right.
because that's really important.
So Dom just asked, wait, no. Can you go back to what Dom asked right there? Yeah. So Dom asked, can you talk about the importance of sharpening the saw, getting on calls, getting on Cepeda calls, leaning into their upline? How can we help get our people to grasp that importance of getting to events? Okay, so the first thing is we have to show up first. We have to show up by getting on the calls with our videos on, ready to go, because we cannot anticipate or attract someone into our business to be above and beyond what we're doing if we're not doing it ourselves. So if you are wanting more of your team members to plug into the calls, to get themselves to events, my first question is are you the one? Are you the one that is plugging into the calls? Are you the one that is getting yourself to an event? And if you can answer yes to that question, you're already poising yourself to attract other people into your organization who are also going to see the value in that. Now, here's what I know about plugging into something. When you can express to your team members, your customers, or your business builders, people who see the vision, what we're to do as people who are mentoring and leading other people is to constantly and consistently remind them why they said yes to begin with. We are constantly vision casting for the people that we're bringing into Isagenix. Because what I know is I know that it's very easy to lose sight of the dream. It's easy to lose sight of the vision, especially when adversity comes or challenges come or a week goes by and you have a really, really important, dinner meeting on Sunday at 7 p.m. and you couldn't get on the call. So now there's 2 weeks that you weren't plugged in. If this ring light that we have that's illuminating on us isn't plugged into the light socket, it's dark. But as soon as we plug it into the source, it begins to shine bright again. So our job as people who want to grow a large organization and to create a large residual income is to constantly remind people why they want to do it. And once you can tap into that dream, once you can tap into their why, then you insert that why directly back to the community, directly back to how important it is to remain plugged in. Because what I know that the people who are plugged into the light source are the ones who shine bright. They're the ones who are rank advancing. They're the ones who are earning an income. They're the ones that you see that are being shouted out on FLT Business. Why? because they're remaining in the source. So it's our job to really cast that. All we can do is show the value. We can't force people to dial in 952-701-4805. We can't force people to get on the morning calls with Herb and Patty or to buy their ticket to the next event. But what we can do is lead by example. What we can do is constantly bring out and pull forth the vision and the dream and the why inside of them and direct them directly back into the source, which are plugging into the community, plugging into the events.
You know, in addition to that, when you look at sharpening your saw, sharpening your axe, and maybe many of you have heard about this analogy. Imagine you go out and you have a tree out in the backyard and you have an axe and you swing it 5 times every single day, just 5, and then you come back inside. If you never, there's a side of that story that talks about the power of consistency, right? Going in every single day, doing the same thing, and eventually it's not you're going out there and working 13 hours. You're going out and hitting that tree 5 times, right? But the other side of that story is if you're hitting that tree with a dull axe, how much more if you go out there and you hit it with a baseball bat, you could hit that thing for 27 years and that tree wouldn't fall down. I don't care if that tree's, 6 inches around. If you're hitting it with a baseball bat, you're going to be expending so much effort, so much energy just to get the tree to fall, and it's not going to fall. Why? Because you're using the wrong tool or you're using a blunted blade. Mm-hmm. My point is this: if you're experiencing the same results and you're finding it frustrating, and you're finding it, agonizing or, deflating, these activities maybe that are taking place in the business, whether it's connecting, following up, coaching, might I encourage taking a step back quickly and sharpening your saw. Going to freedomlivingteamtraining.com, reading through the scripts. You guys, I can still enroll a value pack by pulling up freedomlivingteamtraining.com, reading verbatim those scripts, and somebody will most likely come in with a value or premium pack. But if I forget how to, stay on track and build value and keep it simple and not over, word vomit, then my axe will get dull. And then it becomes confusing. Then it becomes overwhelming. And I get frustrated in the process. And so this week, to answer Dom's question, there's plenty of resources like celebrationlive2020.com. There is a complete library of any topic you could ever want, basically, of some of the top earners in the industry giving their best nuggets to you. And so here we have Isagenix, like we talked about last week, where there's not an excuse not to be able to learn something. Now there's YouTube, now there's everything. Listen, if you have not gone and watched Rise of the Entrepreneur, the Eric Worre video that he did specifically on network marketing, it's an hour long. It's called The Rise of the Entrepreneur. You can find it on YouTube. There's a paid version. You don't need to do that. I think it's about, like I said, about an hour, something like that. It will make you a 10 out of 10 in your belief for what this industry is about. I mean, I'm talking about some of the most renowned financial people you know of endorsing network marketing and the trends that are taking place right now. That's sharpening your saw. But listen, that happens on your own time. Ellen's got to get up and sharpen her axe, on her own time. And then she's got to go out and strike her tree. Same with John, same with Rebecca. We all got to sharpen our axe every day. And so, that looks in many ways like getting on these calls, getting to events, plugging into the Cepedas calls, engaging in the, Facebook groups and community, because by rubbing, and crossing paths with each other, that's how another way we obviously sharpen our saws as well.
Yeah. So remember, keep it basic. Keep the main thing, you guys. This is awesome training, but remember, action is what's going to cause the needle to move forward in your business. So you're simply connecting, asking questions, sending an Isagenix tool, and then either getting on a 3-way phone call or getting on a quick phone call yourself to explain how they can get started. So keep it simple and know that this is a really fun business. And the more that you can put your mind and your heart on the line of serving other people, the more fun you're going to have, the more energy that's going to flow, and the better that you're going to become in this process. This isn't a get rich quick, make $1 million overnight, be the most amazing connector and closer in your very first day. This takes time, but remember what you're working towards. We are working towards more freedom in Isagenix.
Mm-hmm.
We are creating long-lasting residual income that is ever flowing in on Mondays tomorrow, receiving that payday from the orders that have been processed through your organization, the reorders that have been processed through your organization, all because you said yes.
Yeah.
So remember what you're working towards. Anytime that this business can become challenging, I have lost sight of how the basics, and I've lost sight of the vision of how good we really have it with Isagenix. Remember that vision and move forward this week with that in your mind's eye. Do the activation. Practice what you learned tonight. Practice those little things. Would you take a look? Is now a better time for you to take a look? Practice those things to be direct and certain, and watch how the transition changes. Your energy changes. So.
Yeah, and use that tactic by following up with a couple of people tonight, maybe who you touched base with a couple weeks ago, saying, hey, I wanted to touch base. It's been a couple weeks or a couple months since we talked about Isagenix. Would now be a better time for you to take a look and just see what happens in that conversation. You guys, we're so excited. We're going to hop back on these next week with some new, awesome, exciting material. But until then, let's make it a great week, and so excited for all the growth that's happening. Love you guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.